Overthinking is a prison of the mind. It's that constant loop of thoughts, the relentless questioning, the hesitation that creeps in when you stand at the edge of a decision. It's the voice that asks, "What if I fail? What if things don't work out?" It's the mind's desperate attempt to control the outcome before even taking the first step. But the truth is, thinking alone will never lead to clarity. Thinking can't replace action. Action is the antidote to overthinking because it forces you to confront reality instead of living in the hypothetical. Overthinking thrives on uncertainty. When you don't know the outcome, the mind tries to fill the gap by imagining every possible scenario, both good and bad, but the mind is naturally drawn toward the negative. It creates problems that don't exist, amplifies fears that haven't materialized, and convinces you that you're not ready. But you don't need to know every answer before you begin. Clarity comes not before action, but through action. The moment you step forward, the fog starts to lift. The mind adjusts to what's real instead of what's imagined. Action cuts through mental chaos like a sword. When you act, you disrupt the cycle of endless analysis and speculation. The mind becomes quiet because now it has something tangible to work with. Fear and doubt lose their grip when you shift from thinking to doing. The body moves, the mind follows. When you focus on the next step rather than the entire journey, fear begins to shrink. The mind is wired to respond to action. Movement creates momentum, and momentum silences overthinking. Waiting for the perfect plan is the root of paralysis. The mind tells you that you need more information, more preparation, more certainty before you begin. But perfection is an illusion. No one starts with perfect knowledge or perfect confidence. Confidence is built through repeated action, through trying, failing, adjusting, and moving forward, despite the uncertainty. The first step is always the hardest, because it challenges the mind's need for security. But once you take it, the mind begins to adjust. You realize that you can survive imperfection. You realize that mistakes are not final, and this realization creates strength. Fear of failure is the greatest weapon overthinking uses against you. The mind whispers, if you don't try, you can't fail. But not trying is failure in itself. The fear of looking foolish, the fear of falling short, the fear of disappointing others. These fears create a wall between you and action. But action dismantles that wall brick. When you take a step forward, you prove to yourself that you are not fragile. You discover that failure is not an identity, but a lesson. Every setback teaches you something valuable. Every mistake sharpens your understanding. Through action, you redefine failure not as an ending, but as a stepping stone. There is strength in imperfection. There is wisdom in progress. Overthinking convinces you that mistakes will define you, but action shows you that mistakes refine you. You become stronger not by avoiding challenges, but by engaging with them. When you take imperfect steps, you gather evidence that you can handle whatever comes. This evidence builds resilience. Resilience reduces fear, and when fear diminishes, overthinking loses its power. Action exposes the truth. The mind distorts reality. It makes problems appear larger than they are. It creates monsters out of shadows. But when you act, you realize that most of your fears were exaggerated. Most of the scenarios you worried about never happen, and even when things go wrong, you discover that you can handle it. Action teaches you that you are stronger than you think. The mind creates doubt. Action creates proof. Overthinking keeps you stuck in the future or the past. It replays old failures and imagines future disasters. But action pulls you into the present. When you focus on the task at hand, the mind quiets. Fear lives in the future, regret lives in the past, but action is grounded in the now. The present moment is where strength is built. The present moment is where confidence is created. Perfectionism is a trap. The belief that you need to have everything figured out before you begin is a lie. The path becomes clear only after you walk it. Waiting for the perfect moment is an excuse. The perfect moment is created through action, not before it. Every successful person you admire began before they were ready. They learned along the way. They adjusted through experience, not through overthinking. Action transforms failure into feedback. Overthinking treats failure as a personal flaw, as evidence that you're not good enough. But action reveals that failure is just information. It's a signal to adjust, to refine, to grow. When you take action, you detach your identity from the outcome. You stop seeing failure as a verdict on your worth and start seeing it as a necessary part of progress. Growth comes through friction, not comfort. Fear shrinks when you face it. Overthinking magnifies fear because it allows fear to grow unchecked. When you confront fear through action, you realize that most of your worries were smoke and mirrors. You realize that you can adapt, adjust, and survive. Strength is not the absence of fear, it's the ability to move forward despite it. Action teaches you this truth. Thinking alone does not create strength. The mind can prepare you, but it cannot strengthen you. Strength is built through experience, through action. Facing challenges head-on teaches you more about yourself than any amount of reflection ever could. Wisdom comes from living, not just thinking. Understanding deepens when theory becomes practice. Action transforms knowledge into strength. There's a difference between preparation and paralysis. Preparation equips you to act. Paralysis prevents you from acting. The line between the two is fear. When preparation becomes an excuse to avoid discomfort, it becomes paralysis. Overthinking tells you that you need more time, more knowledge, more certainty, but action reveals that you already have enough to begin. The first step creates the path. The next step reveals the direction, and each step forward makes the next one easier. Momentum kills fear. The hardest part is starting. But once you begin, the mind adapts. Movement creates energy. Energy creates confidence. Confidence creates clarity. Overthinking thrives in stagnation, but action creates flow, and flow dismantles overthinking. The mind wants control, but life is unpredictable. Overthinking is an attempt to create certainty where none exists. But certainty is not a prerequisite for action. Trust is. Trust in your ability to figure things out as you go. Trust that, even if things don't work out, you will grow. Trust that setbacks are not punishments but lessons. Action builds this trust. Action breaks the cycle of fear and doubt. Overthinking creates a loop. Fear leads to inaction. Inaction fuels more fear. But when you take action, you disrupt this loop. You prove to yourself that you are not powerless. Each step forward weakens fear's grip. Each imperfect attempt builds strength. And over time, strength replaces hesitation. Thinking without action is wasted energy. The mind can only take you so far. The rest must be discovered through action. Growth comes from stepping into the unknown. Confidence comes from realizing that you can survive the unknown. Wisdom comes from experience. Overthinking tries to protect you from discomfort, but action teaches you that discomfort is where strength is forged. You don't need to know the whole path before you begin. You don't need to have all the answers before you act. The mind will always seek security, but security is not the goal. Growth is. The first step may feel uncertain, but it's the only way forward. The mind will tell you to wait, to think more, to prepare more, but clarity comes not through thinking, but through doing. Action is the antidote to overthinking. Your mind is a constant storm of thoughts. Ideas, worries, doubts, and questions swirl endlessly, filling your mind with noise. Thoughts rise and fall, shift and collide, creating confusion and uncertainty. But here's the truth. Your thoughts are not you. They are not a reflection of your character or your strength. They are simply mental events, passing clouds in the sky of your consciousness. You are not defined by them. You are the observer of them. The power to master your mind comes when you understand that you are not your thoughts. Overthinking is born when you mistake your thoughts for reality. The mind generates thoughts involuntarily. You don't control the first thought that enters your mind. A fear, a memory, a question. It appears without warning, but you do control how you respond to it. Most people believe that because they have a fearful thought, they must be afraid. Because they have a doubtful thought, they must be weak. This is the illusion. Thoughts are not facts. Thoughts are not instructions. They are mental noise, background chatter that does not have to dictate your actions or define your identity. You are not weak because you have fearful thoughts. You are not broken because you have negative thoughts. You are human. The mind's nature is to generate thoughts, some helpful, some not. But you are not obligated to accept every thought as truth. A fearful thought does not mean you are in danger. A doubtful thought does not mean you will fail. A painful thought does not mean you are doomed. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. And because you are separate from your thoughts, you have the power to question them, to detach from them, to let them pass without letting them control you. The mind is a tool. It produces thoughts the same way the lungs produce breath and the heart pumps blood. Just as you do not confuse yourself with your breath or your heartbeat, you should not confuse yourself with your thoughts. A tool is meant to be used, not obeyed. The mind presents you with options, possibilities, and predictions. It imagines the best and the worst. It projects into the future and reflects on the past. But you are the one who decides which thoughts to engage with and which to dismiss. You hold the power, not the mind. Overthinking arises when you become trapped in your thoughts. You identify with them. You believe that because a thought exists, it must be analyzed, resolved, and answered. But the mind is a restless machine. It will always generate more questions than answers. If you try to think your way to peace, you will fail. Peace is not the absence of thoughts. It is the ability to observe thoughts without being controlled by them. You cannot stop the mind from generating thoughts, but you can stop yourself from becoming entangled in them. A thought is only as powerful as the attention you give it. When you engage with a fearful thought, it multiplies. When you analyze a doubtful thought, it becomes more complex. When you resist a negative thought, it grows stronger. But when you observe a thought without reacting to it, it loses its grip. A thought without attention fades like smoke. It passes naturally when you refuse to feed it. You are not defined by your intrusive thoughts. A dark thought does not make you dark. A cruel thought does not make you cruel. The mind reflects the chaos of the world. It absorbs external influences, random memories, and emotional imprints. But you are not obligated to act on or accept everything your mind presents to you. You are the gatekeeper of your mind. Not every thought deserves entry. Not every mental impulse deserves to be followed. The strength of the mind is not measured by how peaceful your thoughts are. It is measured by how little control those thoughts have over you. Fear is a product of the mind's attempt to protect you. The mind creates fearful thoughts because it is trying to keep you safe. But safety and growth are not the same thing. The mind's definition of safety is avoidance. It produces anxious thoughts to prevent you from taking risks. But growth requires risk. To evolve, you must learn to act despite the fearful thoughts that arise. You are not your fear. Fear is an automatic reaction from the mind. Courage is the decision to act regardless of it. The mind tries to create certainty where none exists. It produces anxious thoughts because it cannot tolerate the unknown. The mind wants answers. It wants to predict the future, to control every outcome. But life is uncertain. No amount of thinking will make life predictable. No amount of analysis will guarantee success. The mind's demand for certainty is a trap. When you refuse to engage with that demand, you become free. You don't need to know the future to move forward. You don't need to have all the answers to act. You only need to know that you are separate from your thoughts. Doubt is the mind's way of seeking comfort. When the mind creates doubtful thoughts, it's not attacking you. It's trying to keep you from stepping into discomfort. But growth happens in discomfort. You are not weak because you have doubt. Doubt is not evidence of your failure. It is evidence that you are approaching the edge of your comfort zone. Growth begins where doubt arises. The mind will try to convince you that doubt is a warning. It is not. It is a signal that you are moving beyond what is familiar. Ignore it. Move forward anyway. The mind is not the enemy, it is a tool. But when you allow the tool to control you, it becomes a prison. Overthinking is mental imprisonment. It is the mind turning on itself, generating endless scenarios, worries, and questions. Freedom comes when you understand that you are not your mind. You are the observer of the mind. You are not trapped within your thoughts. You are watching them from a distance. That distance creates power. That distance creates clarity. When you stop identifying with your thoughts, you regain control over your life. You do not have to act on every thought. You do not have to answer every question the mind generates. You do not have to calm the mind to find peace. Peace is the ability to observe thoughts without reacting to them. You can let thoughts come and go without attaching yourself to them. The mind will create fear, but you don't have to live in fear. The mind will create doubt, but you don't have to let doubt stop you. When you separate yourself from your thoughts, you discover freedom. Your thoughts are not a reflection of your worth. A dark thought does not make you bad. A weak thought does not make you weak. Your mind reflects the chaos of the world, but you are more than your mind. You are the awareness behind the mind. You are the stillness beneath the storm. Strength comes when you realize that you can think a negative thought without becoming negative. You can encounter doubt without becoming fearful. You can encounter doubt without becoming. When you stop identifying with your thoughts, they lose their power over you. The mind will always generate thoughts. Fear will rise, doubt will appear. But you are not your thoughts. You are the space in which they arise. The thoughts will come and go, they will shift and fade, but you remain. The mind's activity does not define your identity. The mind's chaos does not define your strength. When you observe your thoughts instead of identifying with them, you discover that you are stronger than any thought the mind creates. Peace is not found by controlling your thoughts. Peace is found by realizing you don't have to control them. A storm cannot destroy you when you know you are not the storm. Fear cannot break you when you know you are not your fear. Doubt cannot stop you when you know you are not your doubt. A nature we know is not. When you let thoughts rise and fall without reacting to them, you become unshakable. You are not your thoughts. You are the one watching them. And that truth makes you free. Perfection is a myth. It is an idea that traps the mind, a goal that can never be reached, a horizon that moves further away the closer you get. The pursuit of perfection is not noble. It is a form of mental slavery. It creates hesitation, self-doubt, and fear. It convinces you that you cannot begin until you have the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect conditions. But perfection is a false standard. It is an illusion created by the mind to keep you from starting, from growing, from moving forward. The goal is not perfection, it is progress. Growth comes not from flawless execution, but from consistent action. Excellence is born not from perfection, but from persistence. The mind craves perfection because it fears failure. It convinces you that unless the outcome is certain, you should not begin, that unless you have every answer, you should not act. This is the trap of overthinking. The mind believes that perfection will provide safety, that flawless execution will protect you from pain, rejection, and loss. But this is not how life works. Life is messy, progress is imperfect, growth is chaotic. You cannot escape failure by striving for perfection. You only delay the lessons that failure is meant to teach you. Perfection is a fantasy that keeps you trapped in inaction. Progress is the only path to strength and mastery. Perfectionism is rooted in fear. It is the fear of not being good enough, the fear of judgment, the fear of failure. The mind convinces you that perfection will shield you from these pains. If you get it perfect, no one can criticize you. If you execute flawlessly, you won't face rejection. If you make no mistakes, you won't experience failure. But this is a lie. Perfection will not protect you from discomfort. It will only prevent you from experiencing growth. Strength is not built in the absence of failure. It is forged through it. Perfectionism is an avoidance strategy. It is the mind's way of keeping you from stepping into discomfort, from embracing the uncertainty that progress requires. Perfectionism paralyzes you. When you believe you must get it right the first time, you hesitate to begin. When you believe that every step must be flawless, you second-guess every action. The result is stagnation. You remain stuck not because you lack ability, but because you fear imperfection. The mind tells you that unless you can guarantee success, you should not risk failure. But failure is not the enemy. Mistakes are not evidence of weakness. They are signs that you are learning, evolving, and pushing beyond your limits. Progress requires risk. Growth requires discomfort. Mastery requires imperfection. No great achievement was ever born from perfection. Every masterpiece began as a rough draft. Every great leader began with uncertainty. Every strong mind was once filled with doubt. The difference between those who succeed and those who remain stuck is not the avoidance of failure. It is the willingness to embrace imperfection. The greatest victories are not won through flawless execution, but through relentless adaptation. Strength is built not in the absence of mistakes, but in the willingness to rise after each one. Perfectionism creates an impossible standard. It convinces you that unless you are the best, you are worthless. That unless you succeed on the first attempt, you are a failure. This is the mind's distortion. Growth is incremental. Mastery is gradual. You don't become strong by avoiding weakness. You become strong by confronting it. Strength is not measured by how many times you succeed. It is measured by how many times you get up after you fail. If you expect perfection from yourself, you will never begin. If you expect progress, you will grow stronger with each step. The mind creates perfectionism to avoid vulnerability. When you pursue perfection, you are attempting to control the outcome. You are trying to protect yourself from uncertainty. But life is uncertain. No amount of preparation will eliminate that truth. No amount of perfection will guarantee success. You cannot control every outcome, but you can control your response. You can't predict the future, but you can choose to keep moving forward despite the unknown. The pursuit of perfection is the pursuit of control. The pursuit of progress is the acceptance of uncertainty. Strength comes not from knowing the outcome, but from trusting your ability to face whatever outcome arises. Perfectionism is the enemy of creativity. When you demand perfection, you restrict your ability to experiment, to explore, to take risks. Creativity is born from freedom. The freedom to fail, to adapt, to adjust. The mind convinces you that if you make a mistake, you have failed, but mistakes are not failures, they are feedback. They reveal what works and what doesn't. They sharpen your instincts and strengthen your resilience. Perfectionism blocks this process. It traps you in the fear of getting it wrong, which prevents you from ever discovering what is right. Growth requires the courage to create badly before you create well. Mastery requires the humility to fail before you succeed. Perfectionism creates unrealistic expectations. It convinces you that you should be further along than you are, that you should have it all figured out by now, that others are progressing faster than you. This is the illusion of comparison. The mind magnifies the success of others and minimizes their struggles. It convinces you that everyone else has found the key to success except you. But this is a distortion. Progress is not a straight line. Every strong mind, every great leader, every successful person has faced failure, doubt, and setbacks. The difference is that they kept moving despite them. They understood that growth is not about getting it perfect, it's about getting it done. The mind will always try to convince you that perfection is necessary, that you are not ready, that you need more preparation, more certainty, more answers. But you don't need perfection to begin, you need courage. You don't need to know how it will all turn out, you need to take the first step. Progress is not about flawless execution, it is about relentless movement. Strength is not built by avoiding mistakes, it is built by learning from them. Clarity is not found by eliminating doubt, it is found by acting despite it. The mind will try to delay you with thoughts of imperfection. Act anyway. Progress is built through action, not analysis. Growth is not linear. There will be setbacks, missteps, and failures. This is not evidence that you are failing, it is evidence that you are progressing. The mind will tell you that failure means you are not good enough, that mistakes are signs of weakness, but this is false. Failure is evidence that you are stretching beyond your current capacity. Strength is built not by avoiding discomfort, but by stepping into it. The path to mastery is not straight, it is filled with detours, roadblocks, and unexpected challenges. Those who succeed are not those who avoid these obstacles, they are those who push through them. You will never reach perfection because perfection does not exist, but you can reach strength, you can reach clarity, you can reach mastery. These are born not from getting it right the first time, but from having the resilience to keep going after you get it wrong. Progress requires discomfort. Growth requires mistakes. Strength requires persistence. The mind will try to convince you that you need more certainty, more preparation, more perfection before you begin. But you don't. You only need the courage to begin. Action is the cure for perfectionism. Forward movement is the solution to hesitation. The goal is not to be perfect, it is to make progress every day. You are not weak because you stumble. You are not failing because you make mistakes. Growth is a messy process. Strength is forged through adversity. Mastery is built through failure. The mind will always try to convince you that you are not ready, that you need more time, more certainty, more perfection. Ignore it. You don't need to be perfect, you need to persist. You don't need to have all the answers. You need to keep moving forward despite the questions. Perfection is an illusion. Progress is the goal. Strength comes not from getting it right, but from refusing to quit when you get it wrong. Trust is not built in certainty. It is not established when the path is clear and the outcome is guaranteed. Trust is forged in the unknown. When you cannot see the next step, when the outcome is uncertain, and yet you choose to move forward. The mind craves certainty. It desires a guarantee before taking action. But life does not offer guarantees. The path will always be uncertain. The future will always be unknown. Growth is not found in the comfort of knowing. It is discovered in the courage to step forward despite the unknown. To trust yourself is to release the need for certainty. It is to believe in your ability to face whatever arises, even when you cannot predict what that will be. The mind will tell you that you are not ready, that you need more preparation, that you need more answers before you begin. This is the illusion of control. The mind believes that if you could predict every outcome, you would be safe from failure, from pain, from loss. But life does not operate that way. You cannot control every outcome, and you cannot eliminate every risk. Trusting yourself means accepting this truth. It means understanding that strength is not built by knowing the future. It is built by facing the future without fear. Strength is found not in perfect preparation, but in the willingness to adapt to whatever arises. Trust begins when you stop looking for external validation. The mind seeks reassurance from others. It asks for opinions, guidance, and approval. It searches for signs that the path is correct before moving forward. But this is weakness. Strength comes from within. No one else can walk your path for you. No one else can give you the certainty you seek. Trusting yourself means listening to your own instincts, even when others doubt you. It means following your own inner compass, even when the world tells you that you are wrong. External validation is fleeting. Inner trust is permanent. The world may reject you, but if you trust yourself, you will not be shaken. Doubt is the mind's weapon. It whispers that you are not good enough. It reminds you of past failures. It magnifies every mistake and predicts every possible misstep. The mind creates doubt to keep you safe, but in reality it only keeps you stuck. When you listen to doubt, you give it power. You allow it to dictate your actions, your choices, your progress. Trusting yourself means silencing that voice. It means recognizing that doubt is not truth. It is fear disguised as reason. Strength comes not from the absence of doubt, but from the refusal to let doubt control you. Uncertainty will always exist. There will never be a moment when the path is perfectly clear. There will never be a time when you have all the answers. Trusting yourself means moving forward despite this. It means understanding that clarity is not a prerequisite for action. Action creates clarity. When you trust yourself, you no longer need to have all the answers. You understand that you can handle whatever comes next. You know that you have the strength to adjust, to adapt, to overcome. Trust is not about predicting the future, it is about believing in your ability to face it. The mind will tell you that hesitation is safety, that waiting until you have more information will protect you. But hesitation is not safety, it is paralysis. Waiting for certainty will keep you trapped in the same place. Progress requires movement. Confidence is built through action, not analysis. You cannot think your way into strength. You must act your way into it. Trusting yourself means releasing the need to have every detail figured out. It means understanding that mistakes are part of the process. It means knowing that you are strong enough to recover from failure. Strength is not the absence of missteps. It is the resilience to rise after each one. When you trust yourself, you stop chasing perfection. Perfection is the enemy of trust, because it convinces you that, unless you get it right the first time, you are a failure. Trusting yourself means allowing room for mistakes. It means understanding that growth is messy and progress is not linear. When you trust yourself, you stop viewing failure as a threat and start seeing it as a teacher. Every mistake reveals something you need to learn. Every setback exposes a weakness that needs to be strengthened. Trusting yourself means believing that you are strong enough to endure failure without breaking. Trust is built through consistency. When you honor your own commitments, when you show up even when you don't feel ready, you build trust in yourself. When you push through discomfort, when you face fear head-on, when you follow through despite uncertainty, you are training yourself to believe in your own strength. Confidence is not born from success, it is born from effort. It is forged in the moments when you could have retreated but chose to keep going. Trust is not given, it is earned. and you earn it through action. The mind will try to convince you that you need to see the entire path before you begin. This is false. You don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. Trusting yourself means stepping into the unknown and believing that you will find your footing as you go. It means understanding that you have faced uncertainty before and survived. It means knowing that you have overcome challenges in the past and will overcome them again. Trust is not about predicting the outcome. It is about believing in your ability to handle whatever outcome arises. Fear will always try to control you. It will create reasons to delay, to hesitate, to wait for more certainty. But trust means moving forward anyway. It means recognizing that fear is not a reason to stop. It is a sign that you are growing. Fear is not a weakness. It is a threshold. Trusting yourself means stepping through that threshold despite the fear. It means understanding that courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in the presence of it. When you trust yourself, you no longer let fear dictate your decisions. You feel the fear and take the next step anyway. Trusting yourself means accepting that you will not have all the answers. It means recognizing that you may stumble, you may make mistakes, you may fail. But you will not be destroyed by failure. Strength is not about perfection, it is about resilience. Trust is built not through flawless execution, but through the willingness to recover when you fall. When you trust yourself, you no longer fear uncertainty because you know you have the strength to handle it. You no longer fear failure because you know you have the power to rise from it. There will be moments when the path ahead is dark, when you cannot see the next step, when you feel lost and uncertain. This is when trust matters most. Anyone can feel confident when the path is clear. Strength is built in the moments when you move forward despite the darkness. Trusting yourself means walking forward even when you cannot see the destination. It means understanding that the path will reveal itself as you move. Clarity does not come from waiting. It comes from stepping forward despite the unknown. Trusting yourself means understanding that you do not need to have it all figured out to begin. You do not need to be certain of success to take action. You do not need to eliminate fear to move forward. The mind will always try to convince you that you need more certainty, more preparation, more clarity. But you don't. You already have everything you need. Trust means letting go of the need to control the outcome and focusing instead on controlling your response. Trust means knowing that you have the strength to face whatever comes next. The path will not always be straight. You will face setbacks. You will experience failure. You will encounter doubt. But when you trust yourself, none of these things will break you. When you trust yourself, you stop looking for shortcuts. You stop waiting for guarantees. You stop hesitating when the path is unclear. Trusting yourself means stepping forward even when you feel uncertain. It means knowing that you are enough, that you are strong enough to face the unknown, that you are capable of handling whatever comes next. Strength is not built through certainty, it is built through trust. Trust in yourself, even when the path is unclear.